Welcome back to Canvas of Learning. Let's talk about the use of moral dilemma in classroom. Whenever we use moral dilemmas in classroom, it gets our students excited. And as teachers, we are happy that our students are engaged and the students are coming up with arguments and there's a lot of reasoning happening and the neurons are firing and everybody's on the edge of their seats and it's a cool activity, right? But what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind as students and teachers when we present moral dilemmas in the classroom? Most of this work comes out of Professor Lawrence Kohlberg's research around ethical dilemmas, which has been much critiqued over the years. One of the foremost critique is reason enough to motivate ethical choice, or do you need something else? Is reason the only source of ethical decision making, or there are other factors and sources that also play a role for people to decide what is right and what is wrong? One of the limitations of these ethical dilemmas is around the ignorance towards moral feeling. So many times when we are making decisions, there is a feeling. The feeling comes first, and then we justify our actions according to it. Some people may think in terms of intuition or an inner voice. Think about the last time when we were trying to do something and there was a voice. Don't do that or do that. And you were trying to listen to that voice, right? And doing moral reasoning sometimes ignored this idea of moral feeling. That's number one. Number two, moral development framework that is presented by Kohlberg in terms of moral reasoning dilemmas often ignores the role of family, customs, and faith. Coming from that rationalism school and following Kant in certain ways, Kohlberg has reduced the role of faith, family, and customs to very minimum. And that's another critique of using moral dilemmas. The third one, and an important one, is around argumentation skills. The moral dilemmas are good in teaching our students about how to do arguments, how to reason something. But does that argumentation or reason translate into moral character? We don't know. Or to what extent it does needs to be thought through further. We know that reason can sometimes be slave of the master. You can defend any argument that you want by the basis of reasoning. And if we reduce morality just towards reasoning, we are limiting the caveat that is out there. The fourth one is around insider and outsider. Each of the moral dilemma that is presented to you puts you outside a case study where you are trying to evaluate and think about someone else's situation. The closest that a dilemma takes you to is by saying that imagine if you are at that situation. But even that term, imagine you are at that situation, puts you on the edge of that insider outsider thing, and you may not really engage with that dilemma in that sense. And again, life is not about isolated dilemmas. It's about sequence. It's about disjointed sequence of development of morality and moral character. And in this way, the moral reasoning dilemmas have their limitations. The fifth one is around assumptions. All these dilemmas assume that the people who are participating in these discussions have some values established and they hold around that. Now, what do I mean by that? When Kohlberg was trying this Hens dilemma with a group of prisoners, and he went to a prisoner to ask if Hens should steal drug to save his wife or he should let her die. The prisoner's answers, most of them were, he should steal. What's the point? They were unperplexed by the situation. For them, in that case, stealing was the norm. There was no conflict of values. However, this moral dilemma assumed that stealing and saving life would be a conflict of values, which tells us something. If we are doing moral reasoning in the classroom, think about to what extent our students have certain values established that can they see in conflict. And if those values are not established at all, is moral dilemma a right choice to take in the classroom? My last comment about this caveat that we need to be mindful is this idea of knowing and doing. If you know something is right, does that mean you would do that thing as well? There is a difference between moral reasoning and moral courage. It's one thing to talk about something, but how those those reasons can be translated into action in your practical life is something that also needs a thought as community of educators with all of us. So to conclude, I can say that it's not just about arguing, it's not just about saying, it's more about doing and inspiring as well. Moral reasoning is good to have, but what about moral feeling, moral courage, and also moral inspiration? And as teachers, how can we bring all of these facets in our classroom? Stay tuned with Canvas of Learning. Thank you.